Hey, Off-White Coat listeners, it is my privilege to get to tell you about this sweet deal from our friends over at Picmonic. If you haven't heard about Picmonic, it is a fantastic picture-based mnemonic platform that can certainly help out any student. Most of the videos are around 2 minutes long and provide a quick and effective way to memorize material for any upcoming medical exam. It is extremely efficient. They have this search bar function where you can search playlists on general topics like renal to step 1 to step 2, or even first aid and other books. If you want to review the Picmonic for later, you can even make a playlist of your own. Picmonic even has this repetition algorithm that is spaced out according to your learning needs. This helps with increasing long-term retention and allows you to review the right information at the right time. One of my favorite functions is the quizzes that are associated with each Picmonic. I'll take the quiz first and then learn about the associated pictures and what facts I need to sharpen up on. Honestly, Picmonic is a fantastic tool, and if you use our code OFFWHITECOAT, you'll get 20% off. That's Off-White Coat with no spaces. So what are you waiting for? Make studying the easiest part of your day. Sign up with Picmonic and use Off-White Coat to save yourself some money.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Off-White Coat podcast. I'm back as your host. My name is Mary Beth Skinner, and today I have Jordan Abney, the original Off-White Coat podcast host, with me, filling in.
The original and still the number one.
Number one, yeah, that's probably true. Today we are going to continue our rotations and review with this episode geared towards surgery.
Yes, the surgery core.
Yes, surgery core, because Jordan also has a surgery sub-eye.
Yeah.
Rotation. So we'll do another episode with that later.
Mm-hmm.
But for today, this one is surgery core, which he did at Jersey City Medical Hospital, correct?
Jersey City Medical Center.
Medical.
But yeah.
What's the difference?
I mean, it's the same exact thing. The acronym is different.
Okay,
so
the
I was
acronym.
like, oh, if I say JCMC.
Okay, instead of JCMH, it's JCMC, people. Don't Google that wrong.
But either way, yeah. That it is. That's where I did my surgery rotation at.
And you loved it.
Yeah, I loved it. This was a stark transition from internal medicine to surgery. And most people, from my understanding and talking to people, like they prefer internal medicine. And a lot of people hated surgery. Mm-hmm. I could have spent 2 lifetimes in the surgery rotation for the time that I spent in internal medicine.
Yeah.
It was just night and day. It was so much more hands-on and way less paperwork and more of, doing work.
Right.
We also had a good program where it was every week was something different almost. And it was split between like ophthalmology and orthopedics and urology. There was outpatient, and then there was 4 weeks of cardiothoracic. Then we would go to like just the general practice, and then we would just do all the surgeries and then we would just do general surgery floors where we would work with the residents as well.
Right.
So we had like special subspecialties, and I'm sure I'm forgetting one. I think one was surgery ICU. And there was a couple other ones that we did, but it was really nice to have something different every week. Every week
that you can rotate through. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And be hands-on on all different parts of the body.
Yes. Yeah. And just to see different surgeries, because every surgeon does something different.
Right.
The ophthalmology surgeries were nuts. I was not expecting to get to see those where the people are like still kind of awake and they're just doing the surgery on I know you hate eyes.
My eyeballs are currently closed right now just because I can't stand talking about eyes.
The cataract surgeries are cool. But, like getting to do it. I love orthopedic surgery. I love that. I love just watching it. It's very bloody. And, you get to break out the saws and the screw guns and everything. And that's at least exciting to see. And so, when we get to do that was always fun. And I just loved the general surgery, even just the general surgery vibe. Like I liked the subspecialties, but then also, when we were on nights and everything, there was a lot of trauma that went into Jersey City. So I got to see a lot of that. And that was probably the most exciting is, the surgeries that you're not expecting to come in, and now you need to figure out what the hell do I need to do and to save this person?
Right, because you had to work several overnight shifts too, like maybe one a week.
I think there was 2 weeks
One every 2
where
weeks?
I did every other day was a night shift, like all night.
Oh,
Yeah.
I've blocked
remember,
that out.
Yeah. Like I remember it was like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday.
Okay.
You would be on night call for
Right.
that day. Yeah.
But when you have like traumas and stuff coming in, it doesn't faze you, and you know.
No, like, oh, you mean like the goriness of it? And everything?
Well, I didn't specifically mean that, but that also doesn't faze you. But like, I mean more geared towards the nights. Like,
Oh, yeah,
I was thinking about you just sitting there struggling, like trying to stay awake. But when you have stuff going on, like that's never the case.
Yeah, like especially if my battery is charged, I don't need much sleep, especially if there's something exciting going on. And that's one of the things that, you know, why I believe that I would be a good surgeon would be the steady hands and the fact that I can probably more efficient than that though is the fact that I work well off very little sleep.
Yeah. Well, I can speak to the little sleep, and I can speak to the steady hands.
Yeah. Ooh. Easy. You know, and there's other qualities. You know, I didn't use either one of
Those are
those.
top two.
When they were asking me, I didn't use either one of those. But
Top two
I will
for me.
say that was helpful. I stayed up in my night shifts, and I had a little suture kit, and I practiced suturing. I remember I watched TV for the first time in a hot minute, and I just practiced stitching for like, it felt like hours. And then I would go to bed, you know, relatively late, but I got to sleep more than I thought I would.
Honestly,
to be honest,
you did.
like at night.
You lucked out in your rotation by having like either hardly any surgeries scheduled or having like shorter ones.
Yeah, there was only a couple of ridiculously long ones that I had to be a part of. I mean, there was a couple coronary artery bypass grafts and stuff like that took forever.
Yeah.
It was 8 hours, and I had to pee so bad by the end of it. It was ridiculous. And that's an unfortunate surgery because the cardiothoracic surgeon starts at the heart, and the PA start at the feet, and they try to get the vein that's going to replace one of the clogged veins in the heart. So they go and pull out a vein on your feet. So there's a bunch of tubes which are bypassing all the blood, and that is running through the middle of the patient. Well, that's where I'm standing, and they're both working towards me, like literally inching towards me. And I already have tubes in between my legs, and I was, you know, I had very little room to work. I'm already a bigger guy. And I was like, oh no, they're closing in on me. And then they were like, you can go stand over there. I was like, okay. Did get to hold the heart. I will say we did a what not to do in IM rotation in the last one. One that you're not supposed to do in the surgery rotation is drop the heart during the surgery.
Did you drop the heart?
No, I did not. But the person that did drop the heart,
Oh, someone legit dropped the heart?
it's not like they didn't drop it on the ground. Like you're supposed to like cup it as the surgeon is like working underneath it. And I think it just slipped out of her hands or whatever. And
But where did it land?
I think it's not like it was disconnected. Like I think it was connected to like the veins and everything. So I think it just like dangled a little bit. I remember I was standing in the most awkwardest position because he was kind of like hot, like he had a lot of the room and there was tubes going everywhere. And he was like, here, you want to come hold this? And the way I was standing, I was essentially wrapped my body around it. And I was like, there's no way I'm dropping this thing. Because I had already known her. But I just looked awkward holding it because I had to like reach across. It was a very weird angle that the guy was just like, you're good. You're good. Like halfway through. And I was like, okay, like I wanted to hold it more. But then I thought back on the moment and I was like, oh, he thought I was going to drop it too. He was like, I can't have this happen twice in 2 weeks.
Yeah, really though.
But yeah, that was one thing. That was an interesting surgery. I know that was a lot to compress but that was an 8-hour surgery. I don't know how people do that one though.
What else should you not do in the surgery rotation?
Okay, there's a couple good ones.
Number one being don't drop the heart or any organ.
No. You can drop the heart way more than doing some of these. Like a little slip up.
Okay.
I mean, you know, he might think bad about you, but I will say, so surgeons and like all doctors almost have a different way that they hold themselves, and things that you can ask and when to speak, and just like typical workflow. And you got to figure out the perfect rhythm for each place so that you can help that hospital or that medical team.
Okay.
And one thing to do, I remember this, and this was...
Oh, wait, so we're doing a to-do
No.
list,
One thing not to do. One thing not to do is to continually ask questions when they are busy. Like, there's a lot of things that you're not going to understand at all.
And that's okay. That's okay.
But there's something to...
That's expected, I feel like.
Yeah, it's so expected. Even if they ask you a question, 9 times out of 10, they're not asking you a question because they expect you to know the answer. Mm-hmm. Like, why would that... That's not even... They don't even... That would be a waste of time. They're not just asking you, oh, what is it? Is this the femur or is this the tibia? It's literally... It's going to be like some complex thing that you're seeing maybe for the first time, and they're just like, oh, hey, what is... do you know this? And you're going to be like, I remember reading in a book once, I'm sure the answer to every time a surgeon asks a question, it's always like, well, I read about it, once, and I believe, and you just stall for like 5 minutes. And I'm sure that happens with every time any surgeon asks a question, but that's neither here nor there. I will say the best thing to do is, because you'll notice too, if you're going into your upcoming surgery rotation or anything like that, it's going to be, there might be times where it's chiller. That's when you want to ask your questions, figure out workflow, things like that. But when things start to get tightened up, like especially if you're at a bigger hospital, there's going to be times where they have very little time and they're going to be working. And if that's the time where you have to ask questions, that is always the time that you get chomped off, or like you annoy the hell out of somebody. Mm-hmm. Whether it is, hey, we got to do these rounds real quickly, that's your time to shine, where instead of asking questions about your patients and like how to properly do it, just wing it and hope you do good enough. And they're like, oh, we're short on time anyway. Like, that's good enough. That will be way more satisfactory than you continually asking them for help. This is the residents or attendings technically, about what you should say when you're presenting, because that's going to be annoying to them, because they have to do a lot of checking up before their rounds. Yeah. And everything like that. And that's not to say they're any different. It's just like that amount of time crunching can be very stressful on the residents. And so if you're asking a bunch of questions then, and if you're asking a bunch of questions in surgery, yeah. If your surgeon likes to talk and is asking you to ask that, but if they're not speaking and you just go, hey, what is that? Or why are you doing that? Like, that is going to be the first thing that's going to piss them off. Yeah. I would say just try to fit into the workflow, because it's going to be heavy workflow. Yeah. So you don't want to be standing out. And another good thing would be learn how to properly scrub in, so that when you have different surgeons and different people watching you on a daily basis, no matter what specialty or subspecialty, they don't have any reason to question what you're doing at that surgery. There's a lot of times where it can be the make or break, like when they watch somebody take forever to scrub in, or they watch somebody struggle with doing it and then they have to do it 2 or 3 times. Mm-hmm. They start to get, even the staff, they start to watch you way more carefully. And the best way to get by in a surgery rotation or a surgery is for the staff, for one, not to harass you. Because like they'll be just making sure that you're as sterile as possible and you're a liability. Also build a rapport with the staff so that they don't harass you. Because without that, the surgeon might be paying more attention to the surgery, but if you are standing there and you're dirtying, you get unsterile and somebody else sees you and they call you out, now you have to go re-sanitize and look like an idiot, Yeah.
Keep your hands at your chest, people.
Yeah. Keep your hands and arms inside the vehicle at all times.
At all times.
I would say those are good. Build rapport with the operating room staff and everything like that. Prevents you from being harassed. Mm-hmm. And know your patients. If you want to, Google the surgery before. That was always the most helpful tip.
That's smart.
And there's way better. It's not just Googling. Like, if you're doing orthopedic surgery, it's like ortho bullets. And if you're doing something, other surgeries, there's different websites depending on the specialty. But it'll give you a step-by-step understanding of the surgery. And then you can understand what they're cutting and when they're cutting. And those are the questions they're going to ask. And really, you're just along for the ride and to understand the fatigue that surgery can cause.
Yeah. What was your favorite surgery you did? I think you really were impressed by the eyes.
I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
I never want to do that surgery. And that might be why I'm most impressed by it. Because it takes very little.
For you not to want to do something.
Yeah, I mean, I could do it. It just makes me. Like, they're the little gel balls on your face. I don't know.
There goes
you
my
just had a
eyes
stroke again.
There goes my eyes again. For people who don't know, I'm not in the medical field at all. I don't want to be in the medical field at all. The fact that I'm dating someone in the medical field surprises me. It surprises myself.
Shock
honestly.
to her parents.
Yeah. I can't do it. Anytime I talk about something, it hurts me. Like, talking about eyeballs hurts my eyeballs. If someone breaks their arm, my arm starts hurting. I don't know what it is. I think it's a real thing, but I just can't do it. And I refuse. It's for me to be the host of your surgery rotation right now is just.
Should we get into the nitty gritty?
We should. We should. I'll just close my eyes and ears.
One that I really enjoyed was the fact that one time I got to use the Bovie tip and I got to do the stitching all on this one guy. Like, I'd built up all this rapport, and he was like, Jordan, how comfortable you feel doing? I mean, I barely did it. All I did, the guy just had to have a portacath removed from his chest, but I got to cut it open and like pull all this stuff out. So that was like cool to even get to essentially do the main part of the surgery, even though it's like minor. As far as cool surgeries, there was a couple gunshot where they went and had to extract the bullet. I saw a hemicraniotomy. This guy fell off a building and like fractured his skull, and they had to take half of the skull.
I remember that guy.
Yeah, and
there goes my brain hurting.
That was cool because we didn't know, and for the life of me, I don't know if that guy's alive now. I mean, I'm sure he is, but.
You think he is?
I mean, he was in rough shape though when we got him. And the beauty of trauma surgery, like, they were able to at least get him stable. He fell from I think it was 5 stories and landed on his back, fractured his, cervical and thoracic spine and the back of his skull. It was bad back there. So that was cool to see them doing even brain, head surgery. And I had to run up and down the stairs and get blood for this guy and blah, blah, blah. Even though I ran up the stairs and realized they wouldn't give me the blood as a medical student. So I had to run back downstairs, tell them that I couldn't. And then they just sent me back up there with a chaperone. So I was just still going to get the blood.
Oh my God.
And I carried it, but I had a chaperone, whatever. Yeah, the guy was like, I'm not carrying all this. There was one interesting part. So when you do I saw a lot of laparoscopic surgeries. I saw a lot of the Da Vinci machine, which is neat. It's I think that's probably one of the neatest things is the robotic surgery tool where you get to use you essentially are using a robot to go in and it's running and from an outside standpoint, not even scrubbed in, you're getting to operate the camera and the arms of the robot to do a laparoscopic surgery. That was super interesting. It was really interesting to see. There was one surgeon, and he was like a baller. Came from SGU. He was actually from Trinidad and Tobago. And he would go in, and he would have 2 operating rooms and schedule surgeries within perfect time sets of each other. And one within 30, 45 minutes of each other, and they would be prepping the patient in one room, and he would go in, scrub in, and remove a small little cyst or something like that on one patient, and then he would scrub out, and then he would go into the other room, and he would work on the robot, the Da Vinci machine, and do another surgery while they brought a new patient in.
Oh, wow.
And he doesn't have to scrub in to work on the robot. So the residents would do everything. They'd cut the holes. They'd get the robot ready. He would walk in, sit down, do the whole surgery, get up, walk back out. And as he walked out, he would cross the hall, which was literally just
Across
2 feet.
the hall. Yep.
Scrub in, walk right back into another surgery, and then he would go remove like a gallbladder.
Oh, my
So
gosh.
following this guy was like, you better bring your snacks and eat whenever you possibly can, because he just walks back and forth between rooms and does surgeries consistently for like 6-7 hours, just from one room to the next room, from one room to the next. Great mentality, always was calm about it, and kind of was just like, yeah, I can do whatever. And I mean, it was super efficient. It was crazy. It was like he was doing double the amount of work for people. You know, that was impressive to see his like workflow. You know, I remember I did outpatient with him, and everybody that had a problem, he was like, okay. And he knew his schedule like the back of his hand. So he was just like, yeah, I can get you in Wednesday. I was like, how does he even know? Like, doesn't he need to run this by somebody? Like, what does he mean? Like, Wednesday at 3, I got you. And then he would schedule somebody else. I was like, this guy doesn't have somebody scheduling stuff for him? I was like, I definitely will need that. Like,
Yeah.
I'll be lost.
That guy is pretty impressive. He's goals. What kind of surgeon would you call him? Just a general surgeon?
He's just a general surgeon. I don't think he fellowshipped in anything or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
One interesting story that I do have is, so when we were doing a laparoscopic surgery, and that's essentially where you just make a couple small incisions and you put the arms and then, you know, the devices that you're going to be using for the surgery, you put them in the holes, and it allows you to do the surgery without having to cut a full incision and get all the way into the abdomen. It actually helps with the healing process, especially for surgeries that we figured out a way to do a lot of surgeries laparoscopic now. Mm-hmm. When you do a laparoscopic surgery, you have to inflate the abdomen with CO2 during the process so that it allows for the stomach to expand. You can see better, and I think there's another function, but when you pull a tool out, I remember the surgeon, he goes to pull out, and I remember I read about it during my rotation. I read of the reason for sufflation, but I didn't understand any of actually what I was reading until I saw it in action. And the guy, he was like, hey, I'm going to need your finger for a second. He's like, you're going to have to plug this hole. And he starts pulling out this rod, and the second it clears the stomach, I see exactly what he meant. Because he was kind of talking and pulling it out, because the camera was getting super cloudy. Mm-hmm. And he was like, oh, man, like I can't see anything. He's like, I'm just going to need your finger for a second. And he pulls out this thing, and then all of a sudden it, psst, like if you had let a balloon go.
It was air?
Yes. Oh, and then, I'm like, immediately I put my finger in the hole.
In the hole?
Yeah, like I put it on top at first.
Ew.
You know, to just plug.
And then it wasn't
And then
working?
but the first time you slam your finger down there, you know you don't have the perfect angle, so then I slowly adjust my hand so that I'm completely covering the hole, essentially blocking the hole.
And then it goes into the hole.
And then essentially, yeah, I was just
this?
plugging.
Like
I was
in the
plugging
belly?
the hole. Like if you have a leak in your boat, I just stuck my finger in the hole.
Where was the hole?
Like upper abdomen, like on the left side.
So like belly?
Yeah, in the belly. Yeah.
Okay.
And it was just like, psh, and so I covered it. He like cleaned the camera off. I moved my finger, sticks it back in. Then he's like, it's still getting cloudy. And he just pulls it out, and he's like, Jordan, I'm going to need you. And then he pulls it out again, and then I'm like making sure it doesn't let any air out. And so that was a random spur of the moment. I wasn't expecting to have, at one point I just like thinking to myself, like, how did it come to this? And I'm just sticking my finger, I have my finger in just the hole of somebody's stomach, and I'm just like plugging the hole. While he's cleaning, he's got kind of his back turned, he's cleaning the cameras, and I'm just like, this is the highlight of my day right here, baby.
You had gloves on, right?
No. Why would I have gloves on during the surgery? Yes, I had gloves on.
Okay. I was like, wait, what?
Double glove, baby. Double glove.
Double gloved? Good.
I was double gloved. Yep.
Well, that's gross. So what kind of questions did you see on step and shelf for the surgery?
Trauma. I would know those, especially respiratory. I would say a good amount of it was such and such happens, and now you have, like, do you go to surgery or do you not? And what are the next steps? And there's a pretty obvious criteria. You know, gunshot goes to the abdomen as opposed to the arm. They go to surgery. Because you just don't know necessarily if they, especially if they're bleeding out and stuff like that. If they're hemodynamic. And so they use those little major cutoff points to determine if you need to go to surgery or not. Like whether you have hard signs or soft signs of limb ischemia. I would know those. I would know when do you do surgery or not. That's going to be the most important question. I think also there was a couple of medicine questions, but honestly, it wasn't too terribly bad of a shelf because of what you needed to know was significantly less compared to internal medicine. Because I did this one right after. And so it was just a matter of learning your criteria, when to go to surgery, when not to go to surgery. Study the major organ systems, GI, cardiac, and respiratory, and you should be fine. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of GI stuff. You know, there's a lot of times where after a surgery, your bowels aren't necessarily because of the anesthesia and stuff. Or even just an abdominal surgery, you can have like strictures and things like that where it can cause you to be constipated or impactions and stuff like that. And you need to know the differences in that. That's what I'd say. I'd say you'd be good if you know all that. Know the criterias, do your U-World. That's all I did. U-World, maybe YouTube videos. I did an MBME. MBMEs are great. I tested those just because while you have to pay for them, that's hella annoying. The fact that they give you a couple questions that will be on the test is also reassuring. You know what's going to be the general topics that are presented on the test. Right. And there will be some that are the exact same.
Right. So I have one more topic I want to discuss before we wrap it up, but it's pretty controversial, and it makes surgeons look bad. I wouldn't even say it's controversial, but it does make surgeons look bad. Dr. Death. I mean, honestly, so there's this guy. You want to tell the story about Dr. Death?
You can.
There's this guy in Texas, and I think there's actually a couple of them, but the one I know is the one in Texas.
Yeah, you're referring to the one that is
the neurosurgeon.
Right.
He was in Texas, did a bunch of surgeries without credentials. Basically, he didn't go to med school, fake, right?
No. He went to med school. Yeah, no, that was the issue. He went to med school. I think he went to a good medical school. And then he went to residency, and he did so little surgeries in his residency. Like, you do...
This is why I asked you to tell the story.
Yeah. I didn't realize it was... your version was... You're like, this guy's the OBGYN, that little 14-year-old kid that's like, I'm an OBGYN. Have you ever... You know what I'm talking about?
No, I've not seen
there's
that.
a 16... I think he was 16, but he... like made himself a fake medical diploma and said he was OBGYN, and his picture, he looks like a 16-year-old, like just grinning from ear to ear with a white coat on.
Anyways, so
this doctor, I think it was like, I'll have to look it up. I thought it was at least he got into a decent medical program as well. And that allowed him to get, like, bounce around all these different programs unsuspected. But I remember when they were talking about him, he was supposed to do like well over 1,000 of these surgeries, and he did under 100.
Under 100, yeah.
So once he went out into the world, he knew nothing of what he was actually supposed to be doing.
Right.
And he took a lot of liberties, and it seemed that even though he didn't know necessarily the correct way to do certain things, he just went ahead and did them anyway. Like, you know, like he's like, oh, I can fix that, even though he didn't know even how he would. He just had the thought that by him going back there, and that's, I guess, a mentality that some surgeons, you know, you can't fix everything. You know, you can't just be like, oh, if I touch it, it'll be healed. And right. I guess that's what he thought. I know he crippled his best friend.
Killed someone.
He killed a lot of people.
Paralyzed best friend, I think. Is it best friend? Not anymore, I guess.
I remember I listened to it was like, I guess not now. Yeah. I think he crippled somebody else too, and it's like family.
Yeah.
But
a bunch of people.
Yeah, like offering to do spinal surgeries on people that and then that's tough. Like people you even know and you just are going to just wing it.
Yeah. So
He had a lot of issues, though. I remember one of his main issues was infection rates. So he didn't scrub in well. At one point, I remember they said something about he had holes in his scrubs, and they realized at that point that he was wearing the same underwear for the past 3 days.
yeah.
And so a lot of people, I mean, surgery, once you make that cut, you've opened up the doorway. The skin is the door. And once you open that doorway, anything can come in. And your skin is your best protection from bacteria and viruses. And if he's just bringing it into the operating room, he's going to be the cause. I don't remember the guy's name or anything. I don't know if you have.
Christopher Dunch.
I remember he was in Texas, like Austin, I think.
Dallas.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he would bounce around to a lot of programs, and the programs wouldn't even report him because they thought it was just either mishap or some of them knew that this was going on, but they just didn't want to.
They also didn't want to be legally obligated, so they would just kind of like shoo it off. You know?
Exactly. They would just be like, leave us, and we won't say anything.
So he operated on 38 patients in the Dallas area, leaving 31 paralyzed or seriously injured and 2 of them dead.
Oh, my God. He only operated on 38? I thought it was, like, way more.
That's just in 2 years in the Dallas area.
Even still, that's a terrible record. That is a terrible record. You said he paralyzed, if it's 38.
31 out of 38.
31 out of 38. I mean, that is ridiculous.
So he got his undergrad degree from the University of Memphis.
Yeah, I was about to say, I thought
and got his MD and PhD at the Tennessee Health Center and was allowed to join the prestigious Alpha Omega Medical Honor Society. He did his residency at the University of Tennessee in Memphis, spending 5 years studying neurosurgery and a year studying general surgery. During this time, he ran 2 successful labs and raised millions of dollars in grant funding, according to the Rolling Stone magazine.
He should have done less research and more surgery if that's what he's going to do after.
Yeah.
Well, let this be a lesson. Don't hire people like that and hire me instead. I'll at least do the surgeries at the time.
Well, that's what I want to ask you. So, like, say I am a patient and I want you to tell me, like, why I should pick you why should I trust you to do my surgery? Like, this guy probably had other people ask him the same question, and he was just like, you're in good hands. I'm going to take care of you. They wake up, and they're paralyzed. And they have this bill and all these medical issues later. What would you say to people wanting to know why they should trust you? That's the whole point of this topic, is because people like him ruin it for people like me who don't want to go anywhere near the hospital, but sometimes you have to. And so you want to be guaranteed that your life is safe, you know?
I think, for one, the best way I don't think it's a matter of what I can say to you that allows you to trust me. No, and I think, for one, actions speak louder than words. I would like for my reputation to, by then, if you're referring to a metaphorical patient, I know for a fact that if I'm in that situation, that I won't let my time of learning bypass me. So to become this, my biggest fear would be becoming a crappy surgeon because I didn't, either lack of mentor, because I know that I would be willing to learn. I think that to establish rapport via the fact that of just speaking to people and empathizing with them and letting them know that while this is a very scary thing, honestly, due to my track record and the fact that hopefully I can express via my interactions with them, even though sometimes you only have a little bit of interaction with people.
Yeah.
But express that my true intent is to help. Like, me, like, I would sacrifice my time. I would sacrifice a lot of things just to help people out of the blue almost for no reason. I would still put in that extra time to make sure things are right. And I would only hope that over time, because me just saying that is not, I don't trust anybody that just tells me that as well.
Right.
But
Exactly.
I hope that I could express through me just being candid and really establishing a connection and being concerned about the patient. Like, hopefully they understand that I'm like all safe, baby. They're in good hands.
There you go.
You know, I would be willing to go above and beyond the extra mile to make sure that things are correct, so that like these stories make me like kind of sick a little bit, because
they
it's
do.
just, in a weird way, it's like negligence and like, oh, I wanted to do neurosurgery, but I really didn't care. Like, maybe he had too much stuff going on during the residency to worry about the surgery. I don't know this guy's life at all, but I find it bad to say that you're going to do something and put other people's lives in danger when you're not even quite sure of your own abilities. Like, that takes an amount of cockiness and not confidence that I don't possess. Like, I understand that I'm very confident in my abilities, but I'm going to tell people exactly how it is. And then if you want me to have my hands on the wheels, I guarantee you that I will drive in the best way that I can. You know, like, I'd rather have my hands on the wheel than be in the passenger seat, and I will give it my best shot.
There you go. That's very well said. Okay, everyone. I think that's about it, though. Thank you, Jordan, for joining me on my podcast.
Oh, yeah.
You guys can follow us at the Off-White Coat Podcast on Instagram, or download us on any streaming device. And if you have any questions, shoot us an email at offwhitecoatpodcast@gmail.com for me or Jordan.
See.
Yes. So thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, I want to take this time to tell you about our friends over at TrueLearn. They have this top-of-the-line test bank that is perfect for any upcoming board exams that you may have. They have test banks for all types of exams. So whether you're studying for medical school, nursing school, OT, pharmacy, and others like speech pathology, TrueLearn is the way to go. If you're like me and going through medical school, they have a question banks for all the big exams, like Step 1, Step 2, and Step 3, with quality assessments for each exam. Look, I know we didn't go into healthcare because we love taking tests. This is the hard part of the job. Make it easy on yourself with TrueLearn. Sign up now with the code OFFWHITECOAT to get $25 off your purchase. That's OFF White Coat, no spaces, to get $25 off your purchase. This is a test bank that you do not want to pass up on. Make this easy on yourself. Take the deal, pass your boards, and get back to enjoying the reason you went into healthcare. And make sure to use Off-White Coat when you pick it up.